Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in this virtual world that we're living in. Welcome to the Resume Workshop, Best Practices with Google. We are so excited to be here at SVA again. Yeah, can't wait to get started with y'all. Just want to call out this link that you see here on the presentation. We'll go ahead and we will post that into the chat. And what this is essentially like a sign-in form for attending this session. And it will allow you to basically opt into being contacted by Google for future opportunities potentially. So if that's something you're interested in, we'll throw that in the chat, and then you can go ahead and fill that out when you have a moment. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So if you want to be up to date on opportunities, scholarships, resources, or simply life behind the scenes at Google, be sure to join the Google Students community by following Google Students on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. These accounts are updated daily and will keep you in the know. Before we go to the next slide, I actually just want to let y'all know that I'm going to be calling this session sort of a both live and pre-recorded session. What that means is this session that you're watching right here has actually been pre-recorded, and the live aspect of it is that myself and my colleague Blaine, who I'll be introducing in just a moment, we are live in the chat to engage with y'all. The reason for this really is so that we can engage with you in the chat while the presentation is going versus a live event where we would sort of have to pause, take questions. This really just allows both things to happen at once. So just wanted to call that out there. Okay, well, my name is Jesse Perez. I am on the Talent Outreach Programs team here at Google. I sit in the Austin, Texas office. And fun fact about me, I grew up as an Army brat. So I've sort of lived all over the place, San Antonio being my hometown. I've lived in Washington, D.C., and then my personal favorite, I had such a blast living in Heidelberg, Germany. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to my colleague, Blaine, who's going to introduce herself, and then she will get us started.
Hey, y'all. My name is Blaine. I'm colleagues with Jesse. I also work on our talent programs and events team. I sit in New York City at our Google office. And my fun fact is in college, I actually studied art history. So I didn't know where I'd go next with that. But for fun, I'm an educator at the Brooklyn Museum, just down the street from me, which is a fun way to kind of get that creativity out. So a bit about our agenda and our time together today. 1, we will be going over our hiring principles and values. Secondly, really answering the question, why does a resume matter? Next, general resume tips, then a resume deep dive, and lastly, ending on a few helpful resources. So the best place to start when talking about our hiring principles and values is truly with our mission, which interestingly enough has not changed, though Google has continued to evolve and grow. And the mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And the word universally is a big one. So in order to build for everyone, we need everyone. And in order to do that well, we need a workforce that is more representative of the users that we serve. At Google, diversity, equity, and inclusion are business imperatives for our employees, our products, and our users. We are committed to a set of goals to increase workforce representation and to create a more inclusive culture. Having a diverse workforce is not only the right thing to do, but research shows that greater diversity can increase performance, earnings, innovation, and better products.
So we recognize the tremendous opportunity and responsibility we have to design and build support for 3 billion users. Business and product inclusion is an intentional practice of designing products and services for a diverse range of consumers and communities by better understanding their unique needs. From Google's Pixel camera to embracing equity in Google's global support services, we are making sustained efforts to drive inclusion by design. We are continuing to challenge all Googlers, no matter what product or team they work on, to think differently and to keep all users in mind. In order to build for everyone, by everyone, we need everyone at the table. We challenge ourselves and others to think differently so that we widen pathways to tech. Only then will we reflect our consumer base and truly elevate our ability to build products for everyone. This is why we're here today and why I'm passionate about representing Google.
Thanks, Jesse. So, why does a resume matter? I would love if folks want to put their answers in the chat, or maybe you want to write them down for consideration or share them with a friend at SVA. But some answers that we commonly hear are, first, it's the first interaction with a company. It tells your story. It documents experience. Your resume is a tool that tells your story to people who are making hiring decisions. Your resume should concisely capture your story by framing your strengths, accomplishments, and expertise through experience. As your story grows and changes, which it will, so should your resume. So a couple points here, and starting with the facts, 30 seconds is a lot longer than most recruiters will look at your resume. So how can we catch a recruiter's eye? What are they really looking for in our resume? So your resume should include, or should rather, constantly evolve. And really here is remembering that you customize it per role. So at Google, we call this role-related knowledge. Recruiters want to know why you're a good fit for their particular role at this particular company. What will the person who gets hired be doing? Have you done those things before? Next is showcasing impact. And at Google, when we say impact, we're really looking for leadership. So recruiters want to know that you'll be an asset to the organization in the future based off of your previous experience. What would have failed in your previous roles if you weren't there to save the day? What were the results from the daily tasks that you did? Did you improve customer service by how you answered the phones? Did you improve efficiency by consolidating documents? Did you influence decisions because of a presentation you made? Speak to your brand, thirdly. Have folks here ever heard the term Googliness? Curious, feel free to put it in the chat. Because this is really about speaking to who you are and what makes you you. As a recruiter, we don't want you to be a robot. From the orgs that you get involved in, we want to hear about that. We want to hear about what you care about. For the positions you take on, tell us about the groups that you communicate to. What are you passionate about? What else do you bring to the workplace?
Thanks, Blaine. Now we'll be going over some general resume tips. So before, I wanted to just put out a disclaimer out there that everyone has an opinion about resumes, and there really is no perfect formula. Some of our opinions might be a bit stronger than our employers, and what we present today by no means is the end-all be-all for resume writing, just sort of our point of view. So just wanted to throw that out there. So just so you know, the people reviewing your resume are actively looking for reasons to interview you. Because of this, you'll want to ensure that the most pertinent role-related information is clearly noted on your resume and found with ease. To that end, just keep these things in mind. So PDF format. So to avoid any formatting inconsistencies, which can happen during upload or file sharing, convert your resume into a PDF so that the formatting is retained without issues. And then in terms of what we're looking for clean, simple, and consistent bullet points. Bullet points really help make your resume more legible. And then action and words can really equal results and impact. We'll get more into this later, but you want to start each bullet point with an action verb. For example, created, designed, improved, and then include metrics to highlight the impact you had in each experience on your resume. As for contact information, so in addition to your name, be sure to include your contact information. Email is preferred, phone number is helpful, and feel free to include a link to your personal website, LinkedIn, or GitHub page. As for objective, so because you're applying for a specific role, and because you've hopefully included your grad year and month, you don't need to have an objective. It uses up really precious space. So what I would say is feel free to use this space to tell us more about your accomplishments. In terms of references upon request, in air quotes, we don't recommend using up space on your resume to list references. Feel free to also use that space to tell us more about your experiences, leadership skills, and interests. We'll reach out to you if we need references down the line. In terms of resume structure, let's talk about the primary components of your resume. We see a wide variety of different resume structures and understand that career centers offer advice based on your industry, experiences, and time in education. Utilize whichever format feels the most comfortable for you, depending on what you'd like to highlight. But keep in mind that this structure helps recruiters find the most relevant information to determine your eligibility for technical internships and full-time opportunities at Google.
All right, so we're going to do a quick resume deep dive. So starting with education, your education should be the first section on your resume after your name and contact information, of course. Curious if folks want to put in the chat why that might be. And your students, it's important. Being a student is an important part of your story, especially when you're submitting this resume for internship or university grad roles in particular. So I'm going to walk through these notes below. 1, post-secondary schools attended. So let us know when you're currently pursuing your education and where. If you've moved on to graduate school and or transferred, be sure to include your previous institutions as well. Secondly, intended major, minor, and degree. This is a bit self-explanatory, but I do want to note that we know that some universities don't require you to pick a major until the end of your second year. So feel free to note your intended major here if you haven't declared yet. Third, graduation month and year. This is really important. Your graduation month and year help us determine your eligibility for certain roles. For example, if you're graduating in May or June 2021 and do not intend to return to school next fall, you're eligible for our full-time university grad opportunities. However, if you're graduating in December 2021, you may be eligible for our summer internship opportunities. Fourth is GPA. So whether you list your cumulative or your major GPA, just be sure to note it clearly on your resume. We'll be looking at your coursework on your transcript to see how well you did in courses that are most relevant to your technical career. Relevant coursework. So if you've taken data structures and algorithms, please list it here. You want to include this section if you're a non-CS major who wants to demonstrate CS knowledge and coursework, and or if you're specialized in a specific area and want to show advanced knowledge in specific areas. An example is embedded systems, machine learning, AI, etc. And there's technical skills. Listed in order of proficiency, strongest first, weakest last. Nice to have, but your proficiency in your technical skills is best demonstrated in the body of your resume through your technical experiences, which we'll touch on more later. So we're going to go through an example here. While including your relevant coursework is not absolutely necessary to include because you'll have submitted your unofficial transcript too, we do advise that you list data structures and or algorithms on your resume if you've taken it. Other times when you should list coursework include if you're a non-CS major who wants to demonstrate CS knowledge and coursework, as I've mentioned, or if you've specialized in a specific area and want to show advanced knowledge in those specific areas, again. And again, for technical skills, it's how you demonstrate that level of proficiency because it can vary. Here it's listed the number of years of experience using that language. Whatever you decide, be sure to include the most proficient and then the least proficient. Even more importantly, include examples of how you've gained those skills and use those languages in the body of your experience section. Work experience. At Google, we're excited about what you can bring to the team and the impact you'll have on projects and effects that affect hundreds of, and millions of users. We want to know how, when, and where you've already started to make an impact. This section of the resume is a great opportunity to do just that. So, bulleted here, include employer, position, and dates employed. Also ensure that most recent experiences are listed first or reverse chronological order. Next, keep bullet points clear, concise, and descriptive. Highly encourage bullet points and concise fragments over full sentences. And that's just going back to that fact we shared around the time a resume may use to view your resume. Then consider relevant experiences. Especially if you're running out of space on your one-page resume, consider leaving off the non-tech related experiences. Examples: worked the front desk at the library, restocked medical supplies at a hospital. These are important experiences, but perhaps not for this particular role, in favor of the ones that are relevant to the role that you're applying. So if a student, usually early on in their career, asks, what if I don't have work experience yet? Don't forget, this could also be internships, student groups, hack and coding competitions, and class projects. Can be added in this section as well under experiences instead of work experiences, until you build up that relevant tech experience throughout university, which is common. And this one's important, so transferable skills. Let's say I worked in retail and I'm applying for a job in sales. What are my transferable skills? What's important to note is that you don't have to have done the work that you're applying for to have transferable skills. Look at the job description and figure out what skills they're looking for exactly. Reflect on your past experiences and think about an instance where you learned or used those particular skills. Craft your bullet points then around these skills and examples.
All right, I'm just going to pause there real quick. Just want to acknowledge again that we do work from home, so you may have heard some knocking. You might see my dog like running around in the background. Sorry about that in advance. We do work from home. I'm sure a lot of y'all have similar experiences going on. So just wanted to acknowledge that because I know there was some knocking going on a couple times in the background. Sorry about that. But anyway, getting back to the work at hand. So what do we mean when we say focus on impact? This formula is from Google's former head of people operations, Laszlo Bock's personal writing formula for resume writing, which he published in an article on LinkedIn in case you'd like to check it out. And we'll go ahead and we'll throw that name in the chat if you want to see if you can find that right now. So you'll want to start with an active verb, numerically measure what you accomplished, provide a baseline for comparison, and detail what you did to achieve your goal. So let's break that down a little bit, right? So in terms of accomplished, which is X, you've probably heard this tip before. Start each bullet point with an action verb. For example, debugged, created, designed. For tech, this is also your chance to let us know which languages and technologies that you used. So keep in mind again, our most often used languages here at Google include Java, C++, and Python. So examples of your strength in these are extremely relevant. And then as measured by, which is Y in green here, this is where you can include any metric to support the impact you had. For example, increased server query response time by 15%. And then by doing, which is the Z here. So this is what you specifically did to achieve those results. So for example, by restructuring the API. And then just wanted to go over some examples here. So in red, you'll see, you know, in our opinion, the not so desirable way of wording it in your resume versus the way that we think it would stand out. So in red here, worked as a trainer with deploying units to ready their medical personnel for combat action and trauma medicine. Great experience for sure, but what could make it stand out a little bit more would be a few more key details. So what we would put here is one of 3 officers selected to lead comprehensive redesign of the XYZ training program for 1,000 Marines and sailors, increasing measured unit proficiency by 20%. And then another example here. So again, this is accomplished X as measured by Y by doing Z. So in red here, what someone may put is achieved annual business plan commitments for volumes, model mix, wholesale revenue, selling expenses, and brands. What we would recommend when we might look for a few more details in that, so again, showing the impact of the work, as a team member, contributed to 21% increase in advertiser spend, by achieving 158% of target number of customer contacts, 80 contacts per week, and 192% of target interaction depth, 20 minutes per customer. So you can probably see both of those. You can see how they really stand out. How one can be a little bit more detailed and provide those additional details that can make your resume stand out. And then here's an example of a before. So consulted with clients across products on advertising campaigns and account optimization, maintained the highest client optimization pitch adoption rate. So this might be something that was put on a resume beforehand, but after, with a little bit more wording, a little bit more key details, consulted with clients across multiple Google products on advertising campaigns and account optimization strategies to increase ad click-through rate and return on investment. Maintain the highest client optimization pitch adoption rate among North American interns for 5 weeks, resulting in an increase in revenue by 20% on average. So one thing I'd like to point out here is that the language here is it's used more clearly. And there's metrics to demonstrate improvement based on what was accomplished. And the description is extremely important even if you don't have numbers to share. So just definitely want to point that out. On to you, Blaine.
Thanks, Jesse. We have another example here. Feel free, I'm going to read through this, but if you already have ideas of how this could look differently or what's missing, feel free to add it in the chat. But here, our before is United States Army. We have location and date, training officer, psychological operations sergeant. We have met with senior leaders weekly over a 12-month period, proactively identified improvement area, led implementation of Army training management system, selected to attend a 3-week development course. So what could we add here to make it a little better? So you'll see that it's really in the bullet points. So here, met with the senior leaders weekly to advise on unit readiness by aggregating and analyzing data from 8 sources, resulting in a 25% increase in unit readiness over a 12-month period. So we already see numbers have been added here. Proactively identified improvement area, led implementation of the Army training management system, a readiness tracking system that measured key metrics across numerous personnel databases and files, resulting in a 20% increase in unit productivity. So you'll see that resulting trend there. And then selected ahead of 60 peers to attend a 3-week advanced leadership and management development course. Again, we have 2 different data points listed here as well.
All right, thanks, Blaine. And then in terms of activities and leadership, so when you join us at Google, you'll of course have an amazing opportunity to build and use technologies and tools to positively impact people's lives. However, outside of your core role, you'll also have the opportunity to engage in many of our extracurricular activities. So there's employee resource groups, special interest groups, Google-wide events, community service, and so on. Google to me is an extension of college in all the best ways because of this. So you're encouraged to make an impact within and outside Google too. So we're curious to know, how do you spend time outside of the classroom? Are you part of a computer science club or society? Are you part of national chapters like ACM or NSBE or CS fraternities like UPE? Are you into programming competitions like Code Jam or hackathons? Have you won any of those? Are you spending your summers interning at companies, big or small? Are you a TA or a CS course, or are you a TA or a CS course or advanced math class? Are you a research assistant or a professor at your school or at another school? Are you building your technical skills through open source projects like Google Summer of Code? Or are you a graduate of a developmental program like CSSI? So these are just some of the things that we would like to see in terms of activities and leadership. And again, you're seeing firsthand that I have a dog in my house, so sorry about that. So here's some activities leadership examples. So some things to note. Here, you'll see a demonstration of leadership on campus that created data analytics community. You'll see a demonstration of problem-solving strategic thinking to grow a club. And you'll also see a mention of the number of students impacted by this TA. So in this first example, you'll have, you see here under the U.S. Military Veterans of University at the secretary, you'll see that they create valuable programming for members, including weekly meetings, campus networking events, and social events. You'll see that they curate and disseminate relevant job internship opportunities and events to our 800-person membership each week. And then you'll also see that they were part of the Black Students Organization and that they were the director of operations. And here they coordinated logistics for 25 board meetings, 1 black tie gala, 10 networking events with Fortune 500 firms. So super, super detailed examples here of activities and leadership experience. So along the way in your technical career, you may come across opportunities to, 1, be recognized for your work, and 2, to share your knowledge with others. Let us know how and when you received additional recognition for your achievements. So some examples, some distinguished academic awards. So here, what were the criteria and to how many recipients was it awarded? For speaking engagements, what did you speak about? Which organization invited you? For presentations or publications, what was your topic? Who was the audience? How big was the audience? And for include selectivity if available, this helps us understand the magnitude of these opportunities with metrics wherever possible. And I won't read through the whole thing here, but for honors and awards example, one thing that I definitely want to note as you read through these is that there's a clear mention of selectivity of each honor or award, and that's really, really important. On to you, Blaine.
All right, so interests. So this is what makes you you. Personal interests, even if unrelated to your studies, school-related activities, or potential job industries. So we have some examples here, but truly, so we have carpentry, wine tasting, exercise, snowboarding, architecture. For me, as I mentioned at the beginning of the deck, art and art history is something I'm interested in. Even though I have been able to find transferable skills through those interests, is really just showing who I am a fuller picture. So final tips, love a final tips slide. Your resume should demonstrate your passion for tech through involvement in activities, projects inside and outside of the classroom, and familiarity with key concepts, technical strengths, through projects, coursework, work experiences, and accomplishments. Always be sure to include your graduation month and year. Even if it changes later on, it's super helpful for us to know this to determine your eligibility for certain roles. As often as you can, mirror the formula that Jesse mentioned, accomplished X as measured by Y by doing Z, to ensure that your impact is clear. As frequently as it's true, include examples of how and when you've used Java, C, C++, Python, JavaScript, and Go. You can bold it on your resume if you'd like. What you include on your resume tells your story, and we look forward to getting to know you a bit better. So with all of that said, we recognize that you're a unique individual and that you can add something to our company and to our culture. Google is a place where you can bring your whole self to work, including your military background. So with that said, feel free to stop by our virtual booth with specific questions so we can get to know you and you a bit better.
Thanks, Blaine. And then as we come to a close here, just wanted to highlight some job search tools that can definitely be to your benefit if you don't already know about them. So of course, there's the Google for Jobs search tool, there's LinkedIn Jobs, and then of course, there's Indeed.com. Definitely recommend getting to know all 3 of these tools if you haven't already. So in terms of your career at Google, how do I know which role or opportunity is right for me? So now that your resume looks great and you're ready to apply, how do you make sure you're applying for the correct opportunity? So, so what I would say is, it's not about applying to every job title that sounds interesting. You want to make sure you really, really read those minimum and preferred qualifications. As someone who worked in the recruiting world before I was in this world, taking a look at those resumes, those minimum qualifications and those preferred qualifications were super, super important when we were reading those resumes. So make sure that when you find a job that you think you might be a fit for, make sure that your resume definitely reflects that you meet those minimum qualifications and hopefully some of those preferred qualifications as well. So when you apply to Google, the 2 submissions we require are your most updated resume, preferably in PDF format, and an official or unofficial transcript. Don't forget to upload your transcript, please, please, please. Because of this, you want to make sure that these 2 submissions together tell your whole story. Of course, it's up to you which parts of your story you tell in the limited, typically 1-page space. You have to, so in the typically 1-page space, that you have to ensure that you're highlighting these specific items. You want to make sure you're highlighting your eligibility for the role for which you're applying. That's your education. You want to make sure you're highlighting your role-related experience, so technical skills, work experience, projects. You definitely want to highlight your extracurricular involvement and impact, so organizations, publications, competitions, hacks for sure. And of course, you want to make sure you provide any additional information that's crucial to making you, you. There's a lot that goes in, there's a lot of info on google.com/students. So be sure to click on the Learn More to see what each of these job roles entail. If you don't see a role that you're interested in, you can always set up an alert to be notified via email when the position is posted. And fun fact, when you apply to one of our UG or intern roles, we have a team of staffers that look at your resume and to see what the best role fit is. That way, you get considered for other roles at the company as well. And with that being said, Blaine and I just want to say thank you. So we are at that point now where we're going to see if y'all have any questions. I would imagine that we'll have some time left after this presentation has been done, so we can engage with you in the chat. And if there's opportunity, Blaine and I will come on camera live, really, really live, and answer some questions as best as we can. But if Blaine and I, for some reason, don't have the answers that you need, we're going to have some amazing staffers at our Google booth, our virtual Google booth as well. So thank you all so much. I want to thank you for coming to this presentation. I want to thank you for dealing with this dog back here that was making so much noise. But hey, that's the work from home life. And Blaine, thank you so much for co-presenting this with me. And we're super, super excited. So with that, we're going to go ahead and go live now and take some of your questions via the chat. We're also going to put in the chat this link that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. We're going to throw that into the chat. Please, if you would like to be contacted by Google for potential opportunities, go to this link, fill out that form, and we will see you at the career fair. And we'll have a little bit of time to chat with you right now live. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for checking out our presentation. Super, super cool. I love what SVA has put together here. So yeah, just waiting on some questions to come in via the chat. SVA is going to be sharing those with us, and then we will get started. But y'all got to meet Danny, my giant dog, who you may or may not hear snoring in the background right now. So just an FYI. But yeah, super, super excited to chat with y'all. Just waiting on some questions to come in that SVA will be sharing with us. They're pulling those directly from the chat, and then we'll be able to answer those.
In the meantime, hey y'all, it's Blaine. I'll definitely shout out our form again that Jesse included in the presentation to check in with us and hear more. Later, and our buildyourfuture.withgoogle.com.
Okay, first question came in. Will summer 2021 internships be remote or in person? So as of right now, the plan is for them to be remote. And actually, the 2021 internships for this summer, those applications were actually filled out fall of 2020. So the next sort of round of internships to apply for, those will go live in the fall of 2021 for summer 2022. Next question, would you recommend having a personal Gmail for email address? You know, I may be a little biased because I work for the company, but yeah, I like my Gmail account. It's pretty great. What about you, Blaine?
Yeah, it's free. Why not? Check it out if you don't have one already. Good question. All right, I can take the next one. If you are a first-year MBA, will one semester of grades be enough in a transcript, or should applicants submit grad and undergrad transcripts? Great question. So I'm not familiar, or I'm not sure if you're familiar with our MBA internship, but folks apply to that during their first year. So that would be very common. You would not be alone in not having a complete transcript for both years. If you are looking for full-time, however, it would be more comprehensive. And since we hire on a rolling basis, and this goes actually for all jobs and internships, some of the best advice I can give is just to always apply closer to graduation, but also as soon as you're ready. Because the sooner you get that application in, whether it's for full-time or internship, the more quickly a recruiter can see it and action you. So I hope that's helpful.
Thanks for taking that question, Blaine. I can take the next one. Hello, I attend Yale and study humanities and social science, rather than IT or CS related fields. Are there still opportunities for critical thinkers outside of the traditional tech focus? That is a great question, and the answer is 100% yes. So yes, while we do hire many technical roles like software engineers, we also hire many folks in business roles, or non-technical roles as we may call them. That is our global business operations team, and that is a wide variety of people operations, which is HR. We have a finance team, we have a sales team. So there are many opportunities outside of the technical space for you, absolutely. Blaine, I don't know if you want to chime in on that one as well.
No, that was, yes, perfect answer, Jesse. And it looks like we're getting some more good questions. I'll take the next one. Let me just scroll. Okay, what tools or sites for resume building would y'all recommend? So one, as mentioned in the presentation, our former VP of People Operations has published the resume formula that we've mentioned in the presentation. So if you look up Laszlo Bach, you can find that formula. It's basically what we talked about in the slide, however, with our own spin on it. But that's something I send to folks all the time. If you also go to just our google.com/careers or /students sites, you'll see an entire section on how we hire. And there you'll find interview tips as well, which I think for me personally was really helpful. And lastly, I would say, let me think here. We do have a veteran-specific section within our Build Your Future website. And Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong. But there you can find even more helpful tips and a toolkit around building your veteran resume and experience. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I'll hop on that one as well, Blaine. I can throw that veteran-specific career site in the chat right now. But yeah, we definitely have a careers page that's catered specifically for veterans. So great call out, Blaine. I'll throw that in the chat in just a second. The next question, I'm looking at mid-career positions, and I'm curious if my education needs to be top or bottom of my resume. I'm at 2 pages and would love to have someone take a look at it if there's time. Great call out. So in terms of education, typically as someone who used to look at many resumes throughout the day, I find that education is best at the bottom of the resume. Again, different opinions may vary, but I think education at the bottom of the resume is really great for me, because I love to see your current experience at the top and work my way down. In terms of someone taking a look at your resume, absolutely. We have our career fair going on until 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. So come check us out at the booth. And if you click into the live meeting link, you'll go into a Google Meets Hangout. And you'll actually be able to connect with myself, Blaine, and some other awesome veteran recruiters that we have in the room.
Yes, and to echo that, looks like folks are interested in connecting with us. Definitely, the booth is the best way just to come and chat with us casually. We can we can share a bit more about follow-up, just in a personal setting. So if you're interested in connecting with Jesse and I, please come find us at the booth. It looks like the next question is, in this COVID environment, what is the metric for veteran hire? How many student veterans have you hired? Sure. Now, I understand that this is probably top of mind for folks. I would rest assured we are still hiring during the pandemic, though our interviews look a bit different, right? They'll be virtual. Hiring and location and the rigor at which we hire has not changed. So we still have teams dedicated to working towards resourcing and breaking down barriers for equitable hiring, to have a representative workforce. So those things really haven't changed. Though I understand, we're in new times, so it's a good question to ask companies.
Thanks, Blaine. I can take on the next question. Sorry, I missed the first few minutes. Does Google have a specific vet outreach team? The answer is yes. So we have some amazing veteran recruiters who you can actually meet in the Google booth. So after this resume workshop is complete, come say hi. We have some pretty awesome veteran recruiters, and yes, we have a team dedicated specifically to hiring veterans. That's a huge focus for us. We definitely want to make sure that we are providing equitable opportunities, not just for veterans, but for other historically underrepresented groups as well.
I'll take the next one. Let's see. If someone lists Java, Python, or other computer programming languages under their skills in the resume, how proficient do you expect them to be? Oh, great question. And I think this one is, it probably depends on the job description or level that they're expecting. And I know, I can speak firsthand that sometimes Google job descriptions can feel quite vague. But if you feel like looking up the job description, if it strikes your interest, if it strikes your experience level enough that you feel comfortable at least putting out there, having it on your resume, if that proficiency feels authentic to you, you would of course then address that in your interviews, right? So you'll speak to a recruiter to understand, they'll then gauge your proficiency. We have technical interviews, so going through that process will help them to understand your level. So I wouldn't worry so much about expanding on that proficiency, except for in your experience specifically, because it'll just make you stand out more. But there is a technical interview that will assess that. So we do have resources on our Build Your Future site for preparing for a technical interview in particular. And I think our YouTube student channel as well is a great resource.
Thanks, Blaine. Let's see, the next question. When it comes to my military service, is it best to consolidate or break down my leadership position or duty station? Also, how far back do you go back? So I really think it just depends on how much experience you have and the number of years of experience that you have. So for example, how long you may have served. We love a resume that can be kept to one page. So you can, but we understand that if there's enough experience on there, that sometimes it has to go to those 2 pages as well. In terms of consolidating or breaking down your leadership position or duty station, I would say definitely consolidate as best as you can and highlight the key points. And as we mentioned in the workshop, sort of the what you were doing, the data that you can provide, and the impact that specific work had. So as much as you can, see if you can consolidate it to keep that resume as close to 1 page as possible. But of course, it's never a deal breaker if you have to go beyond that.
Okay, it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick from SBA. We have time for one more question, but this one is, since the Google work environment has migrated to remote during COVID, has the company decided to transition more roles to be performed remotely on a permanent basis, or is the intention that staff will eventually return to office? Great question. So I do actually want to point this question, just for comprehensiveness sake, to our keyword blog. And that's where our CEO has mentioned in detail kind of what this looks like. Is we are currently now work from home through I think it's published September of this year, and similar to other companies, I think this this is a new environment. It's still being assessed based off of safety of all staff members of buildings. But as folks may know, we've always had a bit of flexibility of working remotely. So it really just depends on the role. It depends on the role that you manage or the team, the needs that you have specifically. So great question. I would look for that keyword blog post for even more context and clarity.
Yeah, great call out, Blaine. Thank you so much. Yeah, it looks like that was the last question that we are able to take. But again, come visit us in the Google booth. We are more than happy to come meet you over Google Meets and answer more of your questions. Come say hi. Otherwise, it was so great to be with y'all for this resume workshop. Thank you so much for dedicating an hour of your time to checking us out. And we will see you at the booth later. And Blaine, thank you for co-presenting this with me. I appreciate it. And shout out to Patrick and the SVA team for putting this together.